This is my apartment. This is the backyard. This is the living room, the dining room. Here's the kitchen, my bedroom, bathroom, and here's my roommate's room. When you think about it, the roommate relationship is kind of funny. On the one hand, you live your separate lives. You don't really have any real obligation to be real connected emotionally or otherwise. You have your own friends, whatever. But on the other hand, you share this sort of weird intimacy. I mean, you see parts of each other that most people don't, and maybe you don't even want to see. I've lived in this apartment for about 2 years. I had a different roommate before. He moved in with his girlfriend. And I found my current roommate on Craigslist. And we're both moving out in May, and I'm ready to move on, whatever. The problem is that I just found out, talking to my landlord, that my roommate hadn't paid March rent. And, I guess it wouldn't necessarily be that big of a deal, except that this isn't the first time something like this has happened. It's sort of come from this accumulation of things. I mean, let's start with her dog. So she has this dog. It's a really sweet dog, and I was actually excited to have a dog around. And the problem is that she didn't necessarily always take the best care of her dog, and sometimes it would shit on the floor, and I'd have to clean it up. And at first it was like, well, whatever. I guess I can do this every now and then. It's not really great, but whatever. And it sort of built up to the point where she wasn't really around much, and I was sort of having to clean up after the dog all the time, and basically had to walk it twice a day. So I talked to my landlord the other day, and he tells me that she hasn't paid rent, and so at this point it's been really hard to communicate with her. She doesn't really ever get back to me, so I sent her a pretty kind of forceful message, a lot of bold type and capital letters, just to make sure she knows that our landlord was threatening to evict us and all this stuff. And she sends me this email back, and first of all, she's kind of dismissive of the whole thing, and she basically says that she can't afford the March rent because she just closed on a house. So instead of paying her rent, she went and bought a house. I mean, I should say, I'm not the most perfect roommate ever. I've definitely done some crappy roommate things. I have a pretty chronic habit of not doing my dishes. I've left bills unpaid too long before. One house I lived in had the power shut off because I hadn't paid the electricity bill, and I had to run home from work and duct tape the refrigerator shut so that the food wouldn't spoil before the power company turned on the next day. So I guess it's not like I'm pretending to have any sort of moral authority on this subject. It has occurred to me that maybe this is some sort of roommate karma coming back to bite me. But I guess the real point is it's forced me to realize how much power there is in this relationship that I've always sort of taken for granted. It's so easy for her to screw me over, and the main thing that would stop her is sort of like a concern for my well-being, which, to be honest, she doesn't really seem to care. And I've just realized how easy it is to abuse that power. And I guess the worst part of it is that I've gotten to this point where I'm so frustrated with the situation, and I just want to move on. That I've wished I hadn't been so nice. I wished I hadn't sort of been so tolerant or understanding. And that's a really kind of crappy thing. And I don't know, maybe you're sort of like, oh, whatever. I mean, yeah, that sucks, but it's not the worst thing that's ever happened to anyone. What's the point of doing this? And I guess I sort of realized that the only thing I really have that much power over at this point is the story itself. It's like this, when you sort of feel like you've got to do something, sometimes all you really can do is just tell the story.